You think confidence is about feeling good about yourself. You're wrong, dead wrong, and that lie is why you're still asking for permission, still seeking validation, still hoping someone will finally see your worth. Real confidence isn't a feeling, it's a weapon. And today, you're going to learn how to forge it. The death of modern confidence. Picture this. You walk into a room full of strangers. Your heart races, your palms sweat. You scan their faces, desperate for a smile, a nod, any sign that you belong. You rehearse conversations in your head, crafting the perfect words to make them like you. This is the moment your confidence dies. But here's the brutal truth most will never tell you. Confidence wasn't killed by fear. It was murdered by your addiction to validation. Every time you looked to others for approval, you handed them a piece of your power. Every time you changed your opinion to fit in, you betrayed your own judgment. Every time you said sorry for taking up space, you taught the world to see you as small. Niccolò Machiavelli understood this 5 centuries ago when he wrote, "Since love and fear can hardly exist together, if we must choose between them, it is far safer to be feared than loved." He wasn't talking about being a tyrant. He was revealing the fundamental law of human nature. Respect flows toward those who respect themselves first. Modern society has convinced you that confidence comes from external validation. Get the right job, find the right partner, earn enough money, and then you'll feel confident. This is psychological poison. It creates men who are forever dependent on circumstances they cannot control. The confident man you admire, the one who walks with purpose, speaks with authority, commands attention without begging for it. He didn't find confidence in the world. He built it in the darkness of his own mind, away from the crowd's judgment. He learned what you're about to learn, that seeking approval is the fastest way to lose respect. Your modern weakness isn't your fault, but it is your responsibility. You've been conditioned to believe that being liked is more important than being respected, that being nice matters more than being needed, that fitting in trumps standing out. Every one of these beliefs is a chain around your potential. The death of your confidence began the first time you apologized for your ambitions. It deepened every time you dimmed your light so others wouldn't feel uncomfortable. It was completed the moment you started living for applause instead of living for purpose. But death can be resurrection if you understand the game. Type "I choose power" over approval in the comments if you're done seeking permission, because what comes next will separate the wolves from the sheep. The weak man's disease, you know him. Hell, you might be him, the man who overthinks every text message before sending it, who rehearses conversations in the shower, who lies awake replaying social interactions wondering if he said the wrong thing. This is the weak man's disease, and it's epidemic. Here's what nobody tells you about overthinking. It's not intelligence, it's cowardice disguised as caution. Every minute you spend analyzing what others might think is a minute stolen from decisive action. While you're calculating the perfect response, life is passing you by. The people pleaser thinks he's being kind. The truth? He's being manipulative. Every forced smile, every fake laugh, every agreement with opinions he doesn't hold. These aren't acts of kindness. They're transactions. He trades his authenticity for acceptance, and the world can smell the desperation. Watch how a people pleaser enters a room. His eyes dart everywhere, reading the emotional temperature, adjusting his energy to match the crowd. He's not present, he's performing, and everyone knows it. That's why they don't respect him. That's why they forget his name. Emotional hesitation is the killer of opportunity. While you're wondering if you should approach that person, make that move. Take that risk someone else already has. Confidence isn't about being right all the time. It's about being decisive enough to be wrong and strong enough to correct course. Here's the harsh reality. The world doesn't reward nice guys. It rewards the necessary guys. The man who can solve problems. The man who can make decisions when others freeze. The man who can carry weight when others crumble. Nice is forgettable. Necessary is irreplaceable. Your emotional slavery has 3 chains: the need to be understood, the fear of conflict, and the addiction to comfort. Each one weakens your resolve, softens your edge, and makes you less of a man. The need to be understood turns you into an over-explainer. You justify your choices to people who didn't ask and wouldn't understand anyway. A confident man doesn't explain himself to those who don't matter. His actions speak louder than his words ever could. The fear of conflict makes you avoid necessary confrontations. You let people walk over your boundaries because standing up might create tension. This isn't peacekeeping, it's peace-faking. Real peace comes from establishing clear boundaries and enforcing them without apology. The addiction to comfort keeps you small. You choose the safe job, the safe relationship, the safe life, and wonder why you feel dead inside. Comfort is the enemy of growth. Every expansion of your capabilities requires discomfort. Every level up demands that you become someone you've never been before. The weak man's disease spreads through comparison. He measures his worth against others' highlight reels, forgetting that everyone fights battles in private. He sees confident men and assumes they were born that way, not understanding the invisible work that built their unshakable core. Self-trust is the antidote to the weak man's disease. It's built through keeping promises to yourself. Every time you do what you said you'd do, especially when you don't feel like it, you deposit confidence in your internal bank account. Every time you quit, make excuses, or sell yourself short, you make a withdrawal. The transformation begins when you realize that your thoughts are not facts. Your feelings are not commands, and other people's opinions are not your reality. You are not the voice in your head questioning every move. You are the awareness that can observe that voice and choose whether to listen. But this is just the surface level. The real power lies deeper, in principles that most men will never discover. The Machiavellian core strip away the motivational speeches, the feel-good mantras, and the fake-it-till-you-make-it philosophy. What remains is the cold, hard truth about confidence. It's not about feeling good. It's about strategic superiority. Machiavelli wrote, "Everyone sees what you appear to be. Few experience what you really are." This isn't about deception, it's about understanding that perception shapes reality. The confident man doesn't hope others see his worth. He controls what they see. True confidence operates on 3 levels: what you know, what you control, and what you project. Most men focus only on the third, trying to fake confidence through posture and forced assertiveness. This is amateur hour. Real power starts with what you know. What you know includes your capabilities, your limitations, and your value in any situation. The confident man has done the internal audit. He knows exactly what he brings to the table and what he doesn't. This isn't arrogance, it's clarity. Arrogance is loud because it's uncertain. Confidence is quiet because it's sure. When you truly know your worth, you stop explaining it to others. You stop defending your choices to people who don't have the context to understand them. You stop seeking validation from those who couldn't provide value even if they tried. What you control is where most men lose the game. They try to control outcomes, other people's reactions, and external circumstances. This is the path to anxiety and disappointment. The confident man controls only what he can: his thoughts, his actions, and his responses. Control starts with your environment. The confident man curates his inner circle like a museum curator selects art. He removes toxic people not out of anger but out of strategy. He understands that you become the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with, so he chooses those 5 very carefully. Control extends to information. The confident man is selective about what he consumes. He doesn't scroll mindlessly through social media, absorbing other people's problems and opinions. He doesn't watch the news obsessively, filling his mind with things he cannot change. He feeds his mind like he feeds his body, with intention and quality. What you project is the external expression of internal strength. But here's the key. Projection without substance is performance, and performance eventually breaks down under pressure. The confident man's projection is simply the natural overflow of his internal work. He doesn't need to prove his intelligence. His decisions speak for him. He doesn't need to demonstrate his strength. His composure under pressure reveals it. He doesn't need to announce his success. His results are visible to those who matter. The Machiavellian core understands that power is not given, it's taken. Not through force or manipulation, but through the quiet assumption of authority. When you walk into a room and immediately start looking for the most important person, you've already declared yourself unimportant. When you walk in, assuming you belong at any table, others start to believe it too. This assumption of authority comes from internal sovereignty. The confident man is the king of his own kingdom. He has established laws within himself and enforces them without exception. He doesn't break promises to himself. He doesn't compromise his standards for temporary comfort. He doesn't negotiate with his weaker impulses. Ruthless clarity replaces fake self-esteem. Self-esteem built on lies crumbles under pressure. The confident man doesn't tell himself he's perfect. He tells himself he's capable of improvement. He doesn't pretend his weaknesses don't exist. He works systematically to address them or compensate for them. Strategic thinking becomes second nature. Every interaction, every decision, every investment of time and energy is filtered through the question, does this serve my higher purpose? If it doesn't, it gets eliminated without guilt or explanation. The world respects what it cannot manipulate. When you base your confidence on external validation, you become manipulable. When you base it on internal standards and strategic thinking, you become untouchable. This leads us to the next crucial principle, the law of indifference. Here's a truth that will shatter your worldview. The world doesn't bow to the man who needs it most. It bows to the man who needs it least. This is the law of indifference, and it's the secret weapon of every truly confident man. Watch how people treat the desperate versus the detached. The man begging for a job gets ignored. The man who can walk away from any offer gets courted. The woman is chasing a man who doesn't text back. The man who barely notices her attention gets pursued. This isn't cruelty, it's human nature. Scarcity creates value. When you make yourself scarce, not through games or manipulation, but through genuine self-sufficiency, you automatically become more valuable. People want what they can't have and dismiss what they can easily get. But here's where most men get it wrong. They think indifference means being cold, rude, or dismissive. That's not indifference, that's compensation for weakness. True indifference is warm but not needy, interested but not desperate, engaged but not attached to outcomes. The indifferent man can enjoy a conversation without needing it to continue. He can appreciate a compliment without fishing for more. He can lose an opportunity without losing his composure. This internal freedom creates an aura that others find magnetic. Emotional detachment is your superpower in a world of emotional slaves. While others are triggered by criticism, you remain steady. While others are devastated by rejection, you stay focused on your path. While others are addicted to drama, you operate from a place of calm, strategic thinking. This doesn't mean suppressing emotions or becoming a robot. It means developing the ability to feel emotions without being controlled by them. The confident man experiences anger, but doesn't make decisions from anger. He feels disappointment, but doesn't dwell on disappointment. He acknowledges fear, but doesn't let fear choose his actions. The ability to walk away is your greatest negotiating tool. Whether it's a business deal, a relationship, or any other situation where you want something, your willingness to walk away determines your leverage. The moment you communicate, either through words or energy, that you need this outcome, you lose your power in the negotiation. This principle applies to everything. The job that seems perfect becomes attainable when you're genuinely willing to keep looking. The relationship that feels crucial becomes healthier when you're complete without it. The opportunity that appears once in a lifetime becomes one of many when you trust in your ability to create more opportunities. Indifference to outcomes doesn't mean lack of ambition. The confident man has clear goals and works systematically toward them. But he holds his goals lightly. He's attached to the process, not the specific outcome. If one path closes, he finds another. If one strategy fails, he adapts. This flexibility makes him anti-fragile. While others break under pressure because they've invested everything in one outcome, he thrives because he trusts in his ability to create value regardless of circumstances. The law of indifference extends to opinions. The confident man is curious about different perspectives, but not devastated when others disagree with him. He doesn't need universal approval to maintain his convictions. This independence of thought makes him a leader rather than a follower. People are drawn to those who don't need them but choose to engage anyway. When your presence in someone's life is a choice rather than a need, the dynamic completely changes. You become a gift rather than a burden, an addition rather than a leech. But indifference without direction is just apathy. The next principle shows you how to channel this detachment into something far more powerful. The shadow advantage. Every strength has a shadow, and every weakness has a gift. The confident man doesn't try to eliminate his dark traits. He learns to weaponize them. Your pride, your anger, your envy, your ambition, these aren't character flaws to be ashamed of. They're raw power waiting to be refined. Pride gets a bad reputation, but strategic pride is what stops you from accepting less than you deserve. It's what makes you walk away from disrespectful treatment. It's what drives you to excel when others would settle for mediocrity. The key is distinguishing between proud confidence and fragile ego. Proud confidence says, I deserve respect because I respect myself. Fragile ego says, I need constant validation to feel worthy. Proud confidence builds boundaries. A fragile ego builds walls. Learn the difference and your pride becomes your protection instead of your prison. Anger, when properly channeled, is pure motivation. The man who never gets angry is the man who accepts everything, fights for nothing, and stands for nothing. Righteous anger at injustice, at your own limitations, at settling for less than your potential. This anger is fuel for transformation. But here's the critical distinction. Feel the anger, use the energy, but don't make decisions from the emotion. Let anger show you what matters to you. Then respond with strategic action rather than reactive explosion. The confident man's anger burns cold and cuts deep. Envy reveals your desires. Instead of being ashamed of what you envy in others, use it as a roadmap. That person's success you resent, study how they achieved it. That lifestyle you covet, reverse engineer the steps to create it. That confidence you admire, analyze the mindset that produces it. Envy becomes pathetic only when it stays in the realm of wishful thinking. Transform it into strategic action, and it becomes your GPS toward the life you actually want. Ambition without apology is what separates leaders from followers. The world will try to shame you for wanting more. More money, more power, more influence, more freedom. They'll call you greedy, selfish, or unrealistic. This is a projection from people who've given up on their own dreams. Machiavelli understood that moral restraint without power is just submission with extra steps. The good man who has no influence can't protect what he loves or advance what he believes in. The confident man seeks power not for its own sake, but for the ability to shape his world according to his values. Your dark traits are only destructive when they're unconscious and uncontrolled. Bring them into the light, understand their purpose, and direct their energy toward your goals. This is shadow integration, making peace with your whole self instead of pretending half of you doesn't exist. The man who tries to be all light has no substance. He's agreeable but forgettable, nice but ineffective, moral but powerless. The confident man embraces his full spectrum, capable of both kindness and ruthlessness, both patience and urgency, both cooperation and competition. This doesn't mean being unpredictable or volatile. It means having access to the full range of human responses and choosing consciously which one serves the situation. Sometimes the situation calls for gentle encouragement. Sometimes it demands the hard truth. Sometimes it requires walking away entirely. Shadow work isn't therapy, it's strategy. Every part of your personality that you've rejected or suppressed is energy that could be redirected toward your goals. The perfectionist's obsessiveness becomes attention to detail. The loner's isolation becomes focused productivity. The rebel's defiance becomes innovation. Integration creates authenticity, and authenticity creates magnetic confidence. When you're no longer fighting parts of yourself, you free up enormous energy for forward movement. When you're no longer pretending to be someone you're not, you can focus on becoming who you're meant to be. But integration alone isn't enough. The next principle shows you how to express this integrated power in a way that commands respect, without saying a word. The art of silent power. The loudest person in the room is rarely the most powerful. True power whispers, and everyone leans in to listen. This is the art of silent power, commanding attention, respect, and influence without demanding it. Machiavelli observed, "The lion cannot protect itself from traps, and the fox cannot defend itself from wolves. One must therefore be a fox to recognize traps, and a lion to frighten wolves." The confident man knows when to roar and when to remain silent, when to reveal and when to conceal. Information is the ultimate currency. The man who speaks everything knows nothing of value. The man who speaks selectively holds cards that others don't even know exist. Control information like a weapon. Share what serves your purpose, withhold what gives you advantage. This doesn't mean being secretive for its own sake. It means understanding that mystery creates intrigue, and intrigue creates influence. When people can't quite figure you out, they become more invested in understanding you. When they know everything about you, they lose interest. The confident man speaks with economy. His words carry weight because he doesn't waste them on small talk, complaints, or unnecessary explanations. When he speaks, people listen because experience has taught them that his words matter. Silence is often more powerful than speech. In negotiations, the first person to speak after a proposal often loses. In conflicts, the person who remains calm while others become emotional maintains the advantage. In social situations, the person who listens more than they talk learns the most and gains the most influence. But this isn't about being antisocial or withdrawn. The confident man is fully present in conversations. He just doesn't fill every silence with noise. He asks better questions than he gives answers. He makes others feel heard rather than making himself heard. Psychological presence is felt before it's seen. When a truly confident man enters a room, the energy shifts before he says a word. This presence comes from internal alignment. When your thoughts, feelings, and actions are all pointing in the same direction. Presence can't be faked long-term, but it can be developed through consistent inner work. The man who meditates regularly develops a centered calm that others find stabilizing. The man who exercises consistently carries himself with physical confidence that translates to psychological confidence. The man who reads and learns continuously speaks with informed authority. Body language speaks louder than words. The confident man takes up space without apology. His posture is erect but not rigid. His movements are deliberate but not forced. His eye contact is steady but not aggressive. Every nonverbal signal communicates self-respect and expects respect in return. But here's the advanced level. The confident man can also make others feel powerful in his presence. He doesn't need to diminish others to feel tall. His confidence is so secure that he can celebrate others' wins, acknowledge their contributions, and elevate their status without losing his own. This generous confidence creates loyalty and influence that commanding confidence never could. People will follow the man who makes them feel capable of more than they thought possible. They'll trust the man who doesn't need to prove his superiority in every interaction. The art of strategic revelation controls how much of yourself you show and when. The confident man has layers. What he shows to acquaintances, what he reveals to friends, what he shares with intimate partners. This isn't deception, it's appropriate boundaries. Everyone doesn't deserve access to every part of you. Your full story, your deepest fears, your biggest dreams. These are privileges to be earned, not rights to be assumed. The man who reveals everything to everyone has nothing special to offer anyone. Timing is everything in communication. The confident man knows when to give advice and when to let others learn from experience. He knows when to offer support and when to let others build strength through struggle. He knows when to speak truth and when to let reality do the teaching. This calibration comes from studying human nature, understanding emotional intelligence, and developing the wisdom to know what each situation requires. But wisdom without self-discipline is useless, which brings us to the foundation of all confidence. Dominate the inner court. Before you can lead others, you must rule yourself. Before you can command respect, you must respect your own boundaries. Before you can influence the world, you must dominate your inner court. Your inner court consists of your thoughts, emotions, habits, and decisions. Most men are prisoners in their own minds, ruled by impulses they never questioned and patterns they never chose. The confident man has staged a revolution and crowned himself king of his internal kingdom. Self-discipline is not punishment, it's power. Every time you do what you said you'd do, especially when you don't feel like it, you prove to yourself that you can be trusted. This self-trust is the foundation of all confidence. If you can't trust yourself, why should anyone else? The discipline starts small but builds exponentially. Making your bed every morning. Going to the gym when you're tired. Reading instead of scrolling. Eating what serves your goals instead of what satisfies your cravings. Each small victory builds the muscle of self-mastery. But here's what most people miss. Discipline isn't about creating a perfect life. It's about creating a powerful response to an imperfect life. The confident man doesn't avoid challenges. He builds the capacity to handle whatever comes. Physical discipline creates mental discipline. When you train your body to perform under stress, you train your mind to stay calm under pressure. When you push through physical discomfort, you develop emotional resilience. When you build physical strength, you build psychological confidence. This is why the confident man prioritizes his physical condition, not for vanity but for capacity. A strong body houses a strong mind. A disciplined body creates disciplined habits. A capable body projects capable energy. Mental discipline requires curation of inputs. The confident man is selective about what he allows into his consciousness. He doesn't consume news that makes him angry about things he can't control. He doesn't follow social media accounts that make him feel inadequate. He doesn't engage in conversations that drain his energy or lower his standards. Instead, he feeds his mind with biographies of great men, principles of success, and ideas that expand his capabilities. He studies psychology to understand human nature. He learns about money to build financial security. He develops skills that increase his value in the marketplace. Emotional discipline is the master key. The confident man feels his emotions fully but doesn't let them drive his decisions. He acknowledges fear but acts anyway. He experiences disappointment but doesn't dwell. He feels anger but responds strategically. This emotional mastery comes from understanding that emotions are information, not instructions. Fear tells you something might be dangerous. It doesn't tell you not to proceed. Anger tells you something matters to you. It doesn't tell you to attack. Sadness tells you something was lost. It doesn't tell you to give up. The inner court has its own constitution, your personal standards and non-negotiables. The confident man defines these clearly and enforces them consistently. He knows what behavior he will and won't tolerate from others. He knows what compromises he will and won't make. He knows what goals he will and won't pursue. These standards aren't rigid rules that make life joyless. They are clear boundaries that make life meaningful. When you know what you stand for, decision-making becomes simpler. When you know what you won't accept, you stop wasting time on unworthy pursuits. Private victories create public confidence. The work you do when no one is watching determines the energy you project when everyone is watching. The promises you keep to yourself in private become the trustworthiness others experience in public. The confident man has eliminated the gap between his private self and his public self. He doesn't need to put on a mask or play a role because he's done the inner work to become someone he respects. This alignment creates an unshakable foundation that no external circumstance can threaten. But even the strongest foundation will be tested, and the confident man must be prepared for the inevitable storms. Betrayal, rejection, and control. Every confident man has been broken. Every leader has been defeated. Every strong person has been weak. The difference isn't in avoiding pain, it's in what you do with the pain when it comes. Betrayal teaches you discernment. The first time someone close to you betrays your trust, it feels like the end of the world. Your faith in humanity crumbles. Your ability to trust feels permanently damaged. This is natural, but it's not permanent. The confident man learns to see betrayal as information. It tells him that his trust was misplaced, his assessment was flawed, or his boundaries were unclear. Instead of becoming cynical, he becomes wiser. Instead of closing his heart, he sharpens his judgment. Betrayal reveals character, both yours and theirs. How you respond to betrayal determines whether it weakens you or strengthens you. The weak man becomes bitter, suspicious, and closed off. The confident man becomes more selective, more discerning, and more valuable to those who earn his trust. Rejection is redirection. Every no is information about fit, timing, or readiness. The job that rejected you wasn't meant for you. The person who didn't appreciate you wasn't your person. The opportunity that didn't work out was protecting you from something better. But here's the key. Rejection only has the power you give it. If you base your worth on external acceptance, every rejection becomes a personal attack on your value. If you base your worth on internal standards and external results, rejection becomes data to inform your next move. The confident man doesn't take rejection personally because he understands it's rarely about him. The hiring manager who passed on your application might have had internal politics to navigate. The person who didn't return your interest might have been dealing with personal issues. The investor who declined your proposal might have had different priorities. This doesn't mean making excuses or avoiding responsibility. Sometimes rejection is feedback about genuine areas for improvement. The confident man can distinguish between rejection that's about him and rejection that's about circumstances, and he responds appropriately to both. Failure is education with a high tuition fee. Every failure contains lessons that success never teaches. Success can make you overconfident and complacent. Failure forces you to examine your assumptions, improve your strategies, and develop resilience. The key is failing forward, extracting maximum learning from minimum damage. The confident man takes calculated risks, not reckless gambles. He tests hypotheses on a small scale before betting everything. He builds systems that allow for failure without catastrophic consequences. Pain is the purification process. Just as fire removes impurities from gold, difficult experiences remove weakness from character. The betrayal that taught you to trust wisely, the rejection that motivated you to improve, the failure that revealed your true priorities. This doesn't mean seeking out pain or romanticizing suffering. It means recognizing that growth requires discomfort, and that the pain you avoid now will likely be replaced by greater pain later. The confident man chooses his pain deliberately, rather than having it chosen for him randomly. Strategic composure under pressure is what separates the confident from the comfortable. When everything is going well, anyone can appear confident. When the world is falling apart, only the truly confident remain steady. This composure comes from understanding that external circumstances don't determine internal state. The confident man's peace isn't dependent on everything going his way. His security isn't threatened by temporary setbacks. His identity isn't shaken by others' opinions. He has built an internal fortress that can withstand external storms. This fortress is constructed from self-knowledge, self-discipline, and self-respect. It's reinforced by experience, wisdom, and proven capability. The transformation that pain enables is what makes confidence unshakable. Easy confidence crumbles under pressure. Tested confidence becomes stronger. The man who has been broken and rebuilt himself is harder to break the second time. This leads us to the moment of rebirth, where all these principles come together to create something new. The Machiavellian rebirth. This is where everything changes. Where the old you, the one who sought approval, avoided conflict, and lived in other people's expectations, dies, and where the new you, strategic, self-possessed, and unshakably confident, is born. The rebirth begins with a decision. Not a hope, not a wish, not a goal. A decision. You decide that you will no longer live as a prisoner of other people's opinions. You decide that you will no longer apologize for your ambitions. You decide that you will no longer accept less than you deserve. This decision must be absolute. Half-hearted commitment to confidence is no commitment at all. You cannot be sometimes confident and sometimes insecure. You cannot be strategic on Mondays and desperate on Fridays. You must choose who you are and commit to that identity completely. The first stage of rebirth is elimination. You eliminate the thoughts that don't serve you, the habits that weaken you, the people who drain you, the activities that waste your time, the beliefs that limit your potential. This elimination creates space for what you're becoming. Elimination isn't cruel, it's necessary. The gardener doesn't apologize for removing weeds. The sculptor doesn't feel guilty for chiseling away excess stone. The confident man doesn't feel bad for removing what doesn't contribute to his highest self. The second stage is construction. You consciously build new thought patterns, new habits, new relationships, and new skills. You become the architect of your own character, deliberately designing the man you want to be. This construction happens in private before it's revealed in public. The confident man doesn't announce his transformation, he demonstrates it. He doesn't explain his changes, he embodies them. He doesn't defend his new standards, he simply maintains them. Identity shift is the core of transformation. You stop identifying as someone who lacks confidence and start identifying as someone who commands respect. You stop seeing yourself as reactive and start seeing yourself as strategic. You stop believing you're at the mercy of circumstances and start knowing you're the creator of your reality. This identity shift must go deeper than surface behaviors. It must reach into your core beliefs about who you are and what you're capable of. The confident man doesn't pretend to be confident, he has become confident at the deepest level of self-concept. Mastering your emotions means understanding their purpose without being controlled by their intensity. You feel fear, but don't let it paralyze you. You experience anger, but channel it into productive action. You acknowledge sadness, but don't let it define your trajectory. Emotional mastery is not emotional suppression. The confident man has access to the full spectrum of human emotion, but he chooses consciously how to express and use that emotion. He's not a robot, he's a strategist. Reclaiming ruthless confidence means accepting that the world is not a gentle place, and success is not guaranteed to the nice or the deserving. It goes to the prepared, the strategic, and the persistent. It goes to those who understand power and aren't afraid to acquire it and use it responsibly. Ruthless doesn't mean cruel. It means being uncompromising with your standards while being flexible with your methods. It means being willing to make hard decisions that serve your long-term interests. It means choosing respect over popularity, results over comfort, truth over politeness. The rebirth is complete when you realize that you no longer need confidence. You are confidence. It's not something you have or lack. It's something you embody. It's woven into your identity so completely that questioning it would be like questioning whether you exist. At this level, confidence becomes natural and sustainable. You don't have to remember to be confident any more than you have to remember to breathe. It's simply who you are. Say it out loud. I am nobody's approval project. Because the man you're becoming answers to no one but himself, the empire. Within Machiavelli's final warning echoes through the centuries. Since love and fear can hardly exist together, if we must choose between them, it is far safer to be feared than loved. But he wasn't talking about being a tyrant. He was talking about building an empire within yourself so strong that the world has no choice but to respect it. Your empire is not built of land or buildings. It's built on principles, habits, skills, and unshakable self-respect. It's a kingdom where you are the sole ruler, where your word is law, and where your standards are non-negotiable. In this empire, you don't chase peace, you create it. You don't hope for respect, you command it. You don't beg for opportunities, you generate them. You don't wait for permission, you take responsibility. The emperor of his own life needs no validation from the outside world, because he has built something so valuable within himself that external opinion becomes irrelevant. Not ignored, irrelevant. The difference is crucial. This internal empire has its own economy where your investments are in knowledge, skills, and character. Where your currency is integrity, competence, and results. Where your wealth is measured not in what you own, but in what you control, starting with yourself. The emperor understands that true power is not power over others, it's power over yourself. The ability to choose your response regardless of circumstances. The capacity to maintain your standards regardless of pressure. The strength to stay true to your path regardless of opposition. This empire within creates an aura that others can feel, but can't quite name. It's the presence of a man who knows who he is, knows what he wants, and knows he's capable of getting it. It's the energy of someone who has nothing to prove, because he's already proven everything to himself. People are drawn to this energy because it's rare in a world full of insecure, approval-seeking, validation-addicted individuals. The emperor's self-possession becomes a lighthouse in a storm of chaos, attracting those who recognize real strength when they see it. But with this power comes responsibility. The confident man who has built his internal empire must use that strength to protect what matters, to stand for what's right, and to lead others toward their own empowerment. Power without purpose is just ego with resources. The daily practice of emperorship means waking up each day and choosing to rule wisely, making decisions from strength rather than fear, setting boundaries and enforcing them, pursuing excellence not for applause, but for the satisfaction of knowing you gave your best. It means walking through the world with quiet authority, knowing that you belong wherever you choose to be. Speaking with conviction because your words are backed by experience and wisdom. Acting with confidence because your actions are aligned with your values. This is not about perfection, it's about direction. The emperor is always improving, always learning, always growing, but he's growing from a position of strength rather than desperation, from curiosity rather than inadequacy. The empire within is your legacy to yourself and your gift to the world. When you stop needing the world to make you feel powerful, you become powerful enough to serve the world. When you stop requiring others to make you feel worthy, you become worthy of others' highest respect. Every interaction becomes an opportunity to demonstrate the quiet strength you've built. Every challenge becomes a chance to prove to yourself that you can handle whatever comes. Every day becomes another stone in the foundation of the unshakable confidence that is your birthright. The transformation is complete, but the journey continues. The confident man never arrives. He's always becoming, always building, always strengthening the empire within. If you're ready to lead with ruthless calm, comment, "I rise without fear." The choice is yours. You can continue living as a subject in someone else's kingdom, hoping for scraps of approval and validation, or you can begin building your own empire, where you set the standards, make the rules, and determine your own worth. The world has enough followers. It needs more emperors. Build your empire within. Rule with wisdom. Lead with strength and never ever apologize for the power you've rightfully claimed.